Hello everyone and welcome back to episode number 4, Introduction to Kali Linux. If you're new to this series, we are learning penetration testing step by step to level up our careers, starting from beginner until we feel comfortable in our skills as a professional. So many of you guys have watched my other videos and reached out to me and requested if that would be possible to create a pocket guide to navigate through Kali Linux. And in this video, we are going to learn each and every important detail that is required to perform basic operations, copying the files, navigating through the systems, creating files in directories, downloading, looking through the information within the systems, etc. etc. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. I have divided this video into several parts. I have written here the first command called echo. So echo is something that you need to specify when you require the results to be displayed back on your screen. If I say echo world, quote, hello world, unquote, it's gonna come back with this text, hello world. Now, the second command is called man. Man is short for manual pages, and I say it a lot if you're new to this operating system. Man is your best friend after Google. Keep this man command on your fingertips all of the times because it's gonna help you a lot. So let's say we just learned about echo, right? And we want to know more about echo, so I would say man echo, and it's gonna give us all the information about echo. What's the name of this thing? What it do? What are the flags we can use, right? So next command is ls, or you can say it displays the list of files and directories. So what if I do man ls? Man ls is going to give you the whole information about the command ls itself. It lists information about the files of the current directory by default. And there are a bunch of flags over here. Let's say I want to use the flag -a to display all of the information. So I would say ls-a, and it's going to give me all the files and folders within the directory. Now you can see the difference between these two. When I wrote ls, it just gave me the files and folders that are visible to me. But there are different files and folders that are hidden within the directory. So when I give a command ls-a, it's going to give me each and everything back. So what about if I want to know something more? So I normally use -la, and it tells me each and every information about the properties of the file, whether it's executable, readable, writable or not. So all these information that you can see right here. D stands for directory. So all of these in front of the blue ones are basically, these blue ones are the directories, while the R stands for readable, W stands for writable, X stands for executable. We're gonna learn more about it in a minute. Right. Now another command is called touch. If I would say touch a.txt, it is going to create a new file within my directory, which is called a.txt. Right? If I want to see the contents of this file, I'm gonna say cat a.txt, but since it has no information within it, I have not written anything inside it. so it's not gonna display any information here. So since we have learned about echo, why don't we use echo, and instead of printing the information on our screen, we send it to a.txt. I say echo hello world and send it right into a.txt. Now if I say cat a.txt, I can see I have put another set of words in it with the help of an operator, which is a greater than sign. So we're going to learn more about these operators in a minute. So let's say if I want to add more information, I would say echo more information, and I want to add it to a.txt, but look carefully what's going to happen. When I say cat.a.txt, it's gonna show me more information, but the hello world is gone. So always be careful when using this operator, because it can replace the existing information within the file. But what to do if I want to add another line or append more information instead of overriding it? So I would say like this. Now if I do cat is basically short for concatenate to display the contents of the file. It's going to give me more information. Let's put some more information in it, and I would say hello world again. So it's going to keep appending information line by line as much as I keep giving these informations, right? So next we have another command called rm, which is definitely the command to remove the file, but always be careful while using the remove command, because it can literally damage your system beyond the point of fixing it again. So if you are working within something and you have to use remove command, always make sure that you go to the manual page and read through all the flags and everything. To remove a file, you would just say, let's see, what do I want to delete? I want to delete this new file.txt, so I would say rm new file.txt. So if you're not familiar with the function of the tab is an autocomplete. If you double tab, it's going to give you the information of every other file present within the directory. If you single tab after writing few characters, let's say I want to use NE for the new file, and I press tab, it's going to autocomplete. And I press enter and look in the directory, new file.txt is gone. Another command is mv. So if I want to move a.txt to my desktop, I would say desktop. And we are going to talk about this tilde in a minute, what are the relative paths and what are the absolute paths, when we are going to talk about change directory. So if I want to move this file, I do not have this file within this current directory. By the way, if you want to know what current directory you are in, just write pwd and it's going to show you the present working directory. So let's move to desktop, and I have file here, a.txt. Now I want to copy it back to my home folder. So I would say copy, cp for copy, a.txt, and if we go back, we have the file back again in our home directory. If we want to create a directory, we would say mkdir 123 and it's gonna give us the directory over here. 123, it's gonna make directory for us. And if I say rmdir 123, it's gonna remove directory for us. Now cd stands for change directory. You just watched me using cd dot dot. So if I will say cd single dot instead of double dot, that means I am within the same directory, I'm not going anywhere. But if I do, let's say cd desktop, and I want to go back to the directory, I would say cd dot dot, and I'm back to the directory. So another thing is to note is this tilde sign. It explains the relative path to the user's home directory. So instead of writing, so if I want to go to, let's say if I want to go into my apt directory and I want to get back to my desktop, it's gonna say that there is no such directory. So I have to go back again and again and again. So I would say like cd dot dot, and then I would say I'm not quite there yet. So instead, I can just write cd tilde / desktop, and it's gonna take me to the desktop, right? So this is a pretty shortcut to move within the directories. If you're within some directory, let's say if I am within a directory like which is very far away, and I want to get back to desktop, instead of doing cd dot dot, I would just say cd tilde / desktop, and there I'm in my desktop, right? Another command is ln. If you want to know about this command, just write ln -- help, and you're going to see a lot of information that you can do with this command. I personally do not use this command much because it creates always a problem for me to update the files or hard link those files within the directory to each other. So it's kind of confusing for me, but if you are familiar and if you are curious about this command, please go ahead, use the manual page to learn more about it. Another command is called find. If we are looking something within, if you're looking for some information to find, I would say that find everything, and it's gonna find everything for me on within the directories of Kali Linux. So I'm going to stop it right here. Let's say I want to find, I want to list every file within the temporary directory, and it's going to give me all the files currently present within this TMP temporary directory, right? You can do bunch of things with this command. Is very useful. It is a very useful command. So if you go through the manual page, you can go through all its flags and everything. So there is another command called locate, and I'm much more comfortable in using this command. Let's say if I want to locate Dirbuster, sorry, I misspelled it. Dirbuster, it's gonna give me all the directories and the files that starts with the name Dirbuster. So if I want to locate Impacted, I want to use the Impacted right now, let's say, and it's gonna give me all the files and directories that relate to Impacted. Another command is sudo. Sudo stands for super user root, or it's the equivalent of run as administrator when you're within Microsoft Windows. If I want to run something above my privileges, above my permission level, then I would have to use sudo all the times. We will see more about it, but if you're more curious, you can just say man sudo, and you're gonna find each and every detail about it, how you can use it. Please use this command responsibly, because it can damage your system if you are not using it carefully. Now we move on to another command called Nano. Nano is basically a terminal-based text editor. If I want to say nano a.txt, now instead of writing echo and putting the information here, I could just put the information here right away, and I can say Control X to save that file and press Y to save it. Give the file name a.txt, and it's gonna save that file. Now you can see that instead of writing that echo one by one and appending the new line and again, I just say nano. I can get within this file and add more information or remove the information from it. Now another command we are going to talk about is apt. So apt stands for Advanced Package Tool, and it is used to bring or download the software from the repositories within your operating system. If I'm going to say apt update, that means I'm going to update my system to the latest point. And here comes your sudo command in action. This is sudo apt update, and it's going to ask for the password. So one piece of information that I want to share right here is if you going to give it the right password, it's gonna proceed. But if you are going to give it a wrong password, let's say if I give you a wrong password, it's gonna say try again. But that information is gonna get recorded somewhere for the administrators as a complaint that someone tried to break into the system or try to use the elevated privileges with the wrong password, and it happened. So here's the piece of information. We're going to go and see that information within a minute. So if I ever have to give right password, it's going to start working. So let's stop right here and move on to the file where that complaint, a little complaint, is being filed. So I will have to go within the directory here and locate auth.log and look into auth.log. Permission denied. Once again, sudo, and you're going to see that information, all those information over here. You can see that session open for user and session closed for user root, session open, session closed, and authentication failure. Right. So one time when we gave the password, maybe I gave it earlier today, but this is the latest information that happened just right now. Authentication failed. So it's gonna record that information right here, that what we were trying to do. We were trying to run the update, and this happened. Next, we are going to talk about list of processes. If I say PS, it's gonna give me the processes that are currently running within the system. So if I would have to say man PS, and I want to see more flags, if I want to see every process on the system, I would use -e. And if I want to know more information, I'm looking for -f over here. So normally that's what I use. There you go. Do a full format listing. So if I say PS-E and F, it's going to give me all those information, all those processes running within the system as a root or as a user. So if I have to kill some process, I would just say kill, and I would use this process ID over here. This is called process ID, and this is the parent process ID, but I would use this process ID to kill anything. and I will just write the number over here, and so I will write just the number over here and press enter. Is gonna kill the process immediately. Sometimes it requires elevated privileges, sometimes it doesn't, so you get the idea. So our next command is called password, short for password. This command is used to change password. When you install Kali Linux, it comes with the default password Kali, and the first thing that we do is change the password. So type in password and type in your current password and change it to your new password. And there you go. Password updated successfully. I have mentioned PWD. PWD is present working directory. Another command that we are going to talk about is update DB. So it updates the file structure database. Let's say if you're connected to a remote computer and you have just downloaded the file within certain folder and you cannot find it, you just keep doing ls, the directory listing, and you couldn't find that file. All you need to do, instead of cracking your head, just go ahead and say update db, and it's going to update the file structure for you. And once again, when you, after running this update db, once you run ls command again, you're going to find your file within the system. Next, we are going to talk about ifconfig, short for interface configuration. If you have to say ifconfig, it's going to give you the local IP and every other possible information related to your Ethernet. Or if you're connected to a wireless network, you would say iwconfig. Or if you want to use IP, you would say IP addr show Ethernet 0, and it's going to give you the information about your IP and Ethernet. So it depends what you want to use. I tend to stick to ifconfig most of the times. So the next command is ARP, short for address resolution protocol, and it's going to give you the hardware address, and it basically associates your IP with a MAC address. And if you would have to say netstat, it's going to give you all the information, all the statistics about your network. You can just have this manual page right here and learn more about this command, what it does. Netstat, print network connections, routing tables, interface. So it's quite a deep thing to cover. Probably it's gonna take a video to cover everything about it. But normally, if you're more into information gathering, information handling, or incident handling kind of thing, the next command is route. It's gonna give you all of your network details. If I say man route, it shows the IP routing table, and there are different bunch of commands that you can use. You can use different flags with it to investigate more about your route, right? So next thing is history. This is another useful command to have in your pocket when you are secretly connected to a remote computer and you want to gather some information, what a user does on daily basis. So you will just have to write history. And the cool thing about this is you can just history. Let me go back to my home directory first, and I will say history, and I will print all that history to a file called history.txt, and it's gonna save all that information within a file called history. So if I have to say history.txt, I will get this file, a text file with this information right here. So our next command is called ping. So if I were have to ping google.com, it will say that, yeah, Google is responding to me. And what it does, it sends echo request and receives echo response. So when I ping Google and my system says to Google, hey Google, are you alive? And the Google says, yeah, I'm still alive, I'm here. So this two-way communication between you and google.com, and we use this ping command most of the times to check whether we are still connected to a remote computer or not, whether do we still have a working network connection, internet connection or not. Next, let's talk about user and groups. So if I ever have to add a user, let's say I want to add a user over here, I'm going to start from here. So if I ever have to say add user, that means I'm going to add another user to this machine. I will say I'm going to add and it says only root may add a user or group to the system. So I will say sudo, and I have added a new user called admin here. So I'm going to give the password here. And then you can keep going on with a bunch of information. I will just say enter, 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 and yeah. So I want to change the user right now. I will say su admin and ask me the password, and you can see that my username has changed. So before I was the user Kali within the group Kali. Now I'm a user admin within the group Kali. So if I would have to change back, let's say if we have any activity within this account, and as you can see that it is a new user, so we do not have any kind of history to it, right? So the same thing happens with add group. If you want to add another group, you can add another group and then add another user to that group, and it can keep going on and on and on. So let me get back to my other user. Alright, I'm back with my user Kali again. So let's talk about this change owner command, right? So change owner command is gonna change the file owner and group. If you have a file that you want to give permission to someone else, let's say you have like 6-7 groups within a network, and it's kind of like you are working within an environment where there are different departments. Let's say there is an admin department and there is a sales department. You don't want the files of sales department to be seen by admin, and you don't want admin department to see the files of the sales. So, but something happens, there is an order that you have to give permission to certain person, to the certain user, then you have to use this command to give information to change the permission and give the access to that information to that certain group or certain user, right? So next we are going to talk about Chmod. If I would have to say man chmod is going to give me all the information about this command. Normally we use this command to change the file permissions. So I have given you this command a while earlier. ls-la is going to give us all the information about each and every file. Let's say this a.txt that we have created right here, it is readable and writable for me. For my group, it's just readable, and for everyone else it's readable too. So this first bit is you, the second one is your group, and the third one is public. And these are the commands that you mostly perform with chmod. So if I would have to say chmod 777 to a.txt, it's gonna make it readable, writable, and executable for every single person within this system or outside this system. Now if we do ls-la and we move on the top, you can see the color has been changed and the permissions have been changed. Now I just want to make the file readable and writable for me, which I would say 6, and everyone else I want just to read that file, so I would say 644. And you can see that I can read this file, I can write this file, but others can just read this file. Next, we are going to talk about basic operators. So SSH, Secure Shell Protocol, which runs on port 22. Basic operator for you to perform remote login to any of your clients or any remote computer. We're going to learn more about within our tutorials. Another command operator we have is ampersand, or just simple and. So ampersand is simply just and. So if I would say echo hello and ls. So that means first you say hello and then you give me the directory listing. So first it said hello and then it gave me the directory listing over here. Another command operator is and, or just simple ampersand, just one ampersand. And that means we are going to use the operation that we're going to perform in a background. So if I would have to say gedit a.txt, it's going to open a file editor for me, but my terminal is busy with it too. But instead, I'm going to say right now like this, and if I go back, I can still use my terminal normally. $sign here is basically for your environments here. Then we have a pipeline, which is a button over your enter key. So if I would have to say ls and I want to grab some information, let's say I want the file called history, and it's gonna grab that history.txt for me and list it for me. So we use it to give different parameters and steps or stages to the command. So we're going to talk about semicolon and ampersand, these two commands, what they do. Let's say if I say gibberish and ls, so once the first command has failed, it's not gonna move forward to another command. It's gonna fail right away. But instead, if I want to say gibberish and semicolon and ls, then gibberish makes no sense, but still my list command is going to work. So we use this semicolon in a scenario where we are not sure about the first command is going to work or not, but we still want our second command to perform certain operations, right? We have talked about these greater than signs. This one is to redirect. The next one is same as redirect but it appends or adds up the information. Next, we are going to talk about important files and directories within your operating system. So etc password is the file where you store all the information about your users. So if I would say etc password, is going to give me all that information about the users right here. Back in the days, this file was used to store all the passwords too, but now it has been moved to etc shadow file. I'm not going to show this file because it contains very much sensitive information, and if someone has the access to this file, definitely that person is going to get access to each and every user on that machine. Another folder that we have is called temporary folder. Every command, everything that we run while we are working on our system gets stored in this temporary folder and is definitely purged when we switch off our computer. The next important folder is etc sudoers. It's the list of users that can control the system, has the sudo privileges. The home directory is the directory that we are currently working, It's equivalent to have a folder in your users folder in your C directory in Ep.4. Whereas the root folder, if I will have to go to the root folder, you will see all that critical information that we require to run the system is available in this root folder. So if someone has to have the access to this folder, that means it's equivalent to have access to system32 folder on Windows. Whereas the user folder contains all the software that we have downloaded through repositories and installed within it. And Apt directory is where I keep my other softwares installed, which I normally download from another source, such as GitHub or any other website, and I have to install it manually. So next we are going to look into the command called service. Let's say if I want to see service SSH, whether it's running or not, I would say that service SSH status, and it's going to give me the current status of this service right here. And if I want to say start, it's going to start that service for me. Right now we go back and say service. As you can see that service is active and running right now. Another command that we are going to look into is systemctl. So as you have seen right now, I have started the service called SSH, but when I'm going to turn off my computer, it's gonna get lost on me. It's gonna stop, and it's not gonna start itself. So instead, I would use systemctl and say start SSH. It's gonna ask for the root password, and now every single time that I'm going to turn on my computer, the SSH service is gonna boot up with the operating system. Now the weapon of choice, aka tools. What are the tools that we normally use when we are working with this system? The most common and handy tools I'm going to mention here is Nmap, which I normally use to perform enumeration on any kind of system. My first step is to run Nmap once I get their IP, because it tells me each and everything about this computer, what it is, what it's running on, how many ports are open, how many services we are running, and possibly if we are able to run different scripts, we can look into the current status of different vulnerabilities, whether they're present or not. And then we move on to Metasploit, where we try to find relevant payload, relevant service that we can exploit, or we can just perform auxiliary scans to check whether those ports are exploitable, those services are exploitable or not. We use MSF Venom to generate payloads and use Meterpreter to gain control of the machine and perform our operations. Another tool that we use is Netdiscover, which is normally used to perform passive reconnaissance on the routing tables and IP structures. Then we use Nessus, Impacket, Nikto, Burp Suite. All these tools are there to perform hundreds of operations. Durbuster, GoBuster, Fuzz, Faster, U4. So these are the tools that we normally use to find directories on a web server or on a website. Alright, most of your word lists are available in this folder right here. So if you have to go to that folder, and locate word list, you will find all those word lists right here. So it's quite a good tool. So if I say that I want to look into Durbuster's word list, you will find all those kind of lists here for different operations and different domains of a computer. More on to the sources. I use cvedetails.com to keep myself updated. I use ExploitDB to look into the exploits. Rapid7 is my favorite website because they are the mastermind behind Metasploit. So they made the Metasploit. All the exploits that you're going to find on Rapid7 are gonna be built in Metasploit itself. Then I keep myself updated on several languages such as Python 3 to write different scripts, Bash, the born again shell. It's a command shell, and a language itself, PowerShell, to exploit most of the web services present on a Windows server, Ruby, mostly for Metasploit, and Lua for Nmap scripts. If you know all these languages, that's super perfect. But if you don't, at least I recommend to go and learn a little bit about these languages, what they do, and it's gonna help you a lot in processing the information when you're working on site or working on a computer that you want to exploit. Alright, I think that's about it. And most of the information that I use on daily basis I have listed within this video. I'm going to give link to this file over here which I'm running on Cherry Tree. Keep it safe with you because I'm going to add up more information within this file as we go towards our goal. So if you have any questions, please reach out to me and I will try to respond as soon as possible. And I will see you in the next lesson. Goodbye.